while to think of a song that we could use for this week. So thanks to Psy and Gangnam Style.
I came up with that. I'm going to take credit because I never do. I never think of the song that we use ever.
Well, thanks to both of you. Welcome. This is the Fright Club podcast.
I'm Hope Madden.
And I'm George Wolf, and we're from madwolf.com. And we're doing it live from the Gateway Film Center, High Street in Columbus, Ohio. We do the Fright Club live once a month, do this podcast live, and then we count down movies, and then we see one of them on the big screen, which is always fun. So then we've got a good subject this week because there's a lot of it's fertile ground, Korean horror.
Yes, it is.
We've mentioned a few times it's one of our favorites.
Yeah, and actually more, I think, than I realized when I bit this off. I'm like, damn, I have not seen nearly enough of these. So
and that's saying something.
Yeah. So I've watched a lot recently, and then actually we had a big fight out really for the number 5 slot as well as the number 1 slot. To be honest with you, so. You know.
So, were there a lot that were left on the cutting room floor? You had to really. This is not fuzzy math. We're just doing 5.
Yeah, we're just doing 5, and yeah, there were a couple that were like there were 3 or 4 that really sort of had a knockdown drag out for who was going to make it to number 5. So a couple of them just didn't. They just didn't make it.
What do you think? What in your mind differentiates? Like we talked about. The Irish horror, they have a thing about getting rid of their babies, or talked about a fear of losing their babies. But seriously, when you think of Korean horror, what's the characteristics you think of?
I think that, until maybe 15 years ago, Korean horror just felt like an echo of Japanese horror. Whatever themes and images you found in Japanese horror films, you tended to find also in Korean horror films. So like the Whispering Corridors series is very sort of The Grudge-ish, or Phone is a real popular Korean movie, but it just felt like almost any technology-driven Japanese horror movie. But then, at the beginning of 2000s, 3 in particular filmmakers came onto the scene in Korea, and they each had very individual voices, and they had tremendous range and an enormous amount of talent, and they didn't just affect genre filmmaking in Korea. I just think that they had a tremendous impact on filmmaking in general in that nation, and just kind of changed the face of Korean horror movies. And the 5 that we're going to talk about today, they're very, very different one from the next.
Yeah, and I think when you just think of Korean horror, you just think of good films. I mean, there's good stuff here.
Yeah.
And as we've seen on a few of our countdowns, a couple of these, well, I think 4 out of the 5, they're bunched around a certain time frame.
Yes.
So we've seen some of these movies come out in the same year and be very good. So they go through these periods of real serious quality stuff in a short amount of time.
Well, I think there are two directors in particular who are just the top-notch Korean directors, regardless of genre, and both of them seem to just hit the scene very close to the same time, and so that's one of the reasons why so many of them are sort of bunched up.
Yeah, and one of them, well, at number 5 on our list is one of 2 in this list from the year 2010. And this is one that I really hadn't heard of. So
I would be surprised if many of you have. This is a pretty obscure film.
All right.
And also it's hard to find because they misspell the word. It's a
that is true.
Title, and they misspell it.
That's true. I was trying to dig up some info, research on this movie, and I said...
The English title for it has been misspelled.
I can't find it.
Yeah, it's been misspelled. So, and there are a lot of American films with this same title, but they spell it right, so this one's hard to find.
Okay.
But look it up.
So this is from 2010, and it's Bedeviled with 2 L's.
It starts off in a very urban area where a woman witnesses a crime, and then the longer you get to know this woman, you realize that she has absolutely no feelings, no sense of compassion or of culpability for anything. She gets herself into trouble, and then she decides she has to take some time off work. So she decides to go back to the remote island where she was raised. Very, very small island, very remote. And when she had lived there, the governor of the island had been her grandfather. But I mean, she lived, well when she lived there. But everybody else basically lives off the land. They raise potatoes, and and they are creepy. And so her childhood friend remains and is married and has a daughter. And, everybody looks at this interloper sort of oddly. And one of the things I love about this movie is that regardless of what the trailer makes you think, for most of the running time, you feel like your point of view character is this original woman, this beautiful woman from the big city. But little by little, you realize that it's not. It's the character from the trailer. And it's not, I think the trailer makes it seem like it's going to be more sort of horrifying slave on an island, Lars von Trier sort of thing. And it's not too much of that. She's an interesting character. She's not exactly victimized. She just sort of, this is how she's lived, and she just sort of takes it in stride. But all of the other characters are fascinating and horrible in their own interesting, peculiar ways. So, there's eventual comeuppance, and it's serious. When she finally decides, she's put her foot down, God help you all on this island, which is great. But then it also, it circles back around to the original scene and to some interesting themes. And so it's very unpredictable. Even though that there are certain elements of it, you think, I've kind of seen this. You really haven't. It ties things together beautifully without ever seeming too tidy. The performances are great. It's really gorgeous, actually. It's a gorgeous film to watch. Most of it is set on this island. And, it's also, there's just that sort of satisfying, he's going to get it so bad. And then he does. Just repeatedly. It doesn't matter which character it is, like, she's going to go. Nah. So, anyway, it's very enjoyable, and it's a hard film. It's not a hard film to find exactly. It's just one that you rarely heard of, and because they do misspell bedeviled, it's kind of hard to look up. And
since it's come out, I think there has been a few questions about whether it was based on somewhat actual events, and I think.
Oh God, I hope not.
Well, I think in some interviews, the director has said not one singular event, but I think he did base it on certain crimes and certain events in Korea that he heard about or read about, and then kind of tied them all together to make that. The entire thing, no, but I think it's partly based on real events. So that's from 2010, Bedeviled with 2 L's at number 5, and I know at number 4, this is one a lot of people were hoping for that would make the list, and it does, and this is just from 2006, and it is The Host. Now, as of just a few years ago, I don't know if it still is, but this was the highest-grossing film in the history of South Korea.
Wow.
Everybody went to see it, so I'm not sure if that still holds the record, but hugely popular. And I don't know how many people have seen that. I think just a couple of blocks from here, there's some street art with the
mural. There's a mural on the side of one of the buildings.
Yeah, with the monster diving into the water. Have you seen that? It's on where? Oh, the hippie hut. Yeah, it's on the wall of the hippie hut.
Right, it is.
Yeah, so you go by there. So it's you get a little host every time you drive by. But it's a cool monster.
It is a cool monster, and it's such a great movie. And Joon-ho Bong is the director, and we were saying that there are two really directors that in the last decade or so have exploded in Korea, and he's one. He also he did Snowpiercer last year, right? And he did,
which was awesome.
A couple years ago.
Love Snowpiercer.
He did a clip from the Three Extremes too. He's just great.
Yeah,
he's just great, and incredibly versatile if you think about it, because this is absolutely a creature feature.
Oh yeah,
Mother is disturbing as hell, but it's not in any way a creature feature. Snowpiercer, awesome in all manner, not even a horror movie. He's so great, and the effects from in this movie are outstanding. And there's also a ton of humor. It's really interesting.
There really is, yeah.
So great.
And the funny thing about the creature, while they were making the movie, the director and the designer of the creature, I forget his name, they had a nickname for the creature, and they nicknamed it Steve Buscemi.
Wow.
That was the nickname on set for the creature.
That is my new favorite piece of trivia.
So I'm sure he was flattered.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
But it is, no, you're right. There's a lot of humor in it. But it's a cool creature feature, and it also you have a feeling there's definitely some political undertones to it, whether it's commenting on Western imperialism, if it's going to take something that serious or not. But you do have a feeling that there's a social comment going on here.
In the same way, I mean, it's got a very much Godzilla sort of blueprint about it. So in the same way that Godzilla was always Japan's.
Yeah, I don't think it's that overt though as Godzilla, but there is some commentary going on and some humor.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things I think that make it interesting is the the hero is just this sad sack snack vendor whose daughter is the little girl that you see the monster take in the beginning.
Well, and they also played father and daughter in Snowpiercer.
Yes,
the
they
same
do.
two act. Yeah.
And he's just wonderful, and he's such a loser, and it's not one of those, he's just a loser, and you just love him to pieces and think, no way he's saving his daughter. It's just not going to happen. And just like the sort of the roadblocks, the obstacles to getting this done. The whole movie is just really incredibly well crafted, and even though, again, you feel like you know where things are going because you've seen creature features where somebody gets stolen and somebody is on a quest to save them, it's constantly surprising, everything that it does. It's incredibly well acted. It's really well written. It's really unusually written, and it just looks awesome.
It does, because it's one of those deals. Anytime you have a creature feature, the question is always, how much do you show? When a lot of times less is more. You don't want to show it, the old Jaws theory where you wait, and then you give just your really scenes of the full shark and the full creature. But
he's bold with this.
Yeah, he is bold with it.
Right from the beginning, it's just this mayhem in the middle of this really busy park. It's awesome.
Yeah, it definitely gets your attention, and the effects on it are great. Yeah. So I think we've talked before about a creature feature countdown, so we might be revisiting this one again here soon. It's
possible. Actually, I think we're going to take a poll because next week will either be creature features or horror movies for kids. So think what you prefer. And we'll
mull that over.
Yeah.
So that's yes. So that's number 4, The Host from 2006, and moving up to number 3 on our top 5 Korean horror. This is from 2010. I Saw the Devil. I Saw the Devil. Now, this may be number 3 in this countdown, but if we ever do a countdown on guys who can take a beating, this is going to be number 1. Because I'm telling you what, this guy.
Min-sik Choi.
Wow.
Min-sik Choi can take a beating. He
Especially
really
here, yeah.
Oh, my God.
And, of course, he's well known in these films.
Yeah.
And one that you probably are thinking about that we'll probably be talking about here soon.
What?
But, yeah, he is put through the ringer. And the other guy, I forget his name. We've seen him pop up in American films as well.
Young-Hun Lee,
yeah.
G.I. Joe.
Yes, exactly.
And Ten Foot was upcoming, the Magnificent Seven remake.
Yeah.
And they're just perfect together. It's a cat and mouse film, and Min-sik Choi is just this sort of potato face, just bedraggled, and he's brutish, and his violence is very, very brutal. And opposite him is this elegant. Very handsome and is icy, and you think it's the hero, and it's not that he's exactly not the hero, but repeatedly, because so what happens is the Min-sik Choi's character is a murderer, is a horrible man, and kills his fiance, kills the other character's fiance, and so he just tracks him down and repeatedly just makes him miserable, like in really very severe ways, but he doesn't kill him because he just wants to make him miserable for a long time, which is interesting and brutal and cruel in its own way, but he also doesn't. If he had just killed him in the first time, a lot of other people would have survived. So there's this fascinating moral ambiguity about the film because you can't really like the good guy because he's not really being a good guy, not just because he's blind by this desire for vengeance, but because he's so uncaring about what is going to happen to all these other lovely human beings like his fiance. Couldn't care less. But it does make for a really fascinating film. It's kind of a road picture, right? The one is chasing the other is always trying to get away, but every time he stops, he just does something just horrifying.
And purposely keeps him around for more abuse.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so doesn't really stop him from harming these other people. And if he ever does stop him, it's almost accidental. But it's also like, it's not like just he goes to like a bus stop or something. I mean, at one point he actually goes to what he considers a safe house, and you realize that the people that are letting him stay there are also just dastardly, terrible, horrible murderers as well. It's like a party for, the worst kind of humans. It's incredibly well made.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much a morality play. But also, you can't really talk about this movie. Certainly, it centers on the two leads, but any female character in this movie does not come out well.
No.
At all.
No, and it's funny because this is a tremendously masculine film. It's an incredibly masculine film. But as a counterweight, the same director did A Tale of Two Sisters, which is a very, very female film. And I remember thinking to myself when I saw The Devil, finding that absolutely fascinating that he had such a almost overpowering sense of this sort of dread and horror that you can attach to either one of those.
Yeah, very much so, and it had different. It was you talk about how much of a beating he takes and how violent it is, and he had to cut a lot from it just to get it past the Korean movie rating board.
Wow.
And it's already, I believe, it's about 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours.
So I think originally it was going to be at least another half an hour longer.
Well, there are a couple of scenes. Victimization scenes where innocent people are victimized, and I'm maybe that. I mean, a couple of those, I'm thinking to myself, I did not need to see any more than what happened. I totally did not need to see where that was going more than I did. So maybe that was what they left out.
Well, because and he had to pretty much because the Korean restricted rating means prevents any release in theaters or home video. So, that would you can't really do that.
Just come to my house and watch it. I'll play it on my wall.
Exactly. And then it had a couple of different titles for a while called Night of the Subtropical Zones, and also The Hunter. Before they settled on I Saw the Devil. But it is. That's funny that you mentioned a road picture because it kind of is.
Yeah.
It's let's go on the road and just beat you to a pulp.
Oh yeah.
Over and over. But when you look at it as a morality play, then I think it adds another layer to it that makes it very, very interesting, especially when you talk about other films that he makes that we're going to talk about soon. But that is number 3 from 2010, I Saw the Devil, and this one, a controversial number 2, the legendary Old Boy from 2003. Yeah. Oh man, what an iconic movie!
I love this movie so much. It is.
So why is it number 2 then?
So we'll talk about that. I will get to that, but I just want to say, so Chan-wook Park is a director. See every single thing he's ever done. See it all. See everything. He is so great. And
this is a part of a trilogy.
The Vengeance trilogy, none of which really have anything to do with the other, except they're all about revenge, and they're all brilliant. Though this is the best one. And then I also did. He did a vampire movie called Thirst, which was another one that just about made this countdown. It was one of the ones sort of beaten up on Bedeviled at the bottom to maybe make it. And he did one English language film called Stoker, which is creepy and super great. He's just magnificent. And of course, Min Suk Choi again, who I was going to say, like, this is the one where he gets the
the man can take a beating.
He can take a beating. He can and deliver one.
Yep. And this one is based on some Japanese animation.
Yeah.
And we don't want to. I know a lot of people here have seen it, but we don't want to give away too much. But basically, a guy is imprisoned, and he doesn't know why, and then he is released, and he has to go about solving a mystery, I suppose.
Yes.
I guess you'd say it, and it leads to some uncomfortable situations and some startling revelations.
It's unseemly, everything about it, and a lot like I Saw the Devil. So his foil in this one, Ji Tae-yu, is another. He's just elegant. He's slim. He's handsome. He's got shady. He's just a shady dude, like from the beginning. And again, just the sort of the contradiction between those two. The look and the behavior and the way they go about doing things is really fascinating. The mystery is awesome. The movie looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And then it's just almost you just go, oh, you're going there. That's happening right now. That's totally happening right now. Oh my God. and then you feel like they can't sustain that once the tooth thing, if you've seen it, once that early on the tooth scene, you're like, oh, they're never going to be able to top that, and then they do.
Yes, they do. Yeah. Exactly. And one of the incredible.
What's going on with his tongue right now? Oh my God.
One of the incredible scenes is that quote unquote one take corridor scene, which is not technically in one take, but the way they put it together, it really seems like it would be.
Just a glimpse of it in that trailer, and
it's incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's one of the many startling scenes in this, and I'm keep thinking about don't say too much.
Right, no, exactly, because it's definitely one that you want the surprises to surprise you, and if you don't know anything about it, if you haven't seen it, they totally will. And even if you saw the god awful remake a couple of years ago, this movie will still surprise you because they pulled so many punches in that movie.
Yeah, let's not mention that.
Sick and wrong.
It was awful.
It's sick and wrong.
Yeah, but this is one. It's another one of those, and we've talked about a few of these in the various podcasts. But if you've seen it, anyone who's seen it, like I saw people when we were watching the trailer here, kind of nodding their heads.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Old Boy.
Yep, it's one of those.
It is definitely one of those, and that was one. Not to talk about the remake again, but it's one of those years ago when we heard that they were planning an American remake. We're like, no, don't do that.
Yeah,
because you just had to know.
You were right.
Yeah, not that it can't be done, because there have been good American remakes of horror movies, but there's just so many ways it can go wrong, and this is so good. Why do we need to to do anything more with it? And it did go wrong.
Oh, it went so wrong.
But going back to this one, there are so many different. You can start picking it apart, thinking, what are the lessons here? What is he trying to say? But you just end up going back and forth and getting caught up in the mystery and the big reveal, and then the incredible framing of the scenes, and you get lost in it after a while.
Yeah, you do. It's just everything about this movie is so brilliantly made, which begs the question, why did it end up at number 2? And it was a toss-up.
Somebody just asked that question.
It was a toss-up. So we can almost consider these a tie. We really can. The only thing that put the other one, the film that's at number 1, is also just about perfect, and it's another one where the way this film is framed is stunning and amazing. And the set decoration, and I never talk about set decoration, like never. How many times in a horror movie you're like, hey, nice set decoration? Like never. And in this movie, it's just absolutely glorious. And the only thing I think that gave it the nudge is Old Boy is not. The movie we're going to talk about next is full on, no questions about it. It's a genre movie. It is a horror movie, and it got an extra point for being. There's no other way to describe it. It is no other kind of movie. It's a horror movie. Now, Old Boy is an action film. It's a horror. It's horrific. It's horrific, and I would consider it a horror movie, obviously.
Well, that's what I was just going to bring up. I was going to say, okay, what do you, playing devil's advocate, the people that say Old Boy is not a horror movie?
I'm
going to stand over here when I ask you that, but.
I do. I mean, I accept and embrace that Old Boy is an action film, but it is a horror movie. It is a horror movie just because of the subject matter, the themes, where it goes, where it takes things. It's clearly horrifying. Mm-hmm. But so is American History X, right? And that's not a horror movie. Curb stomp aside, that's not a horror movie. Right. So anyway, the film at number 1 got this is a slight edge for being just embracing the genre that I embrace.
And that is the one we're going to see tonight here in just a few minutes, from 2003, A Tale of Two Sisters.
가장 무서운 게 뭔지 알아?
A Tale of Two Sisters, and it really is a treat because this is one that begs being seen on the big screen.
Yeah, it really does.
Not only you can tell from the color and the way the shots are framed, and it's one that you really get an appreciation. Not that you wouldn't like it on the small screen, but you get a chance like this to see it on the big screen. It's awesome.
Yeah, the color, it's so saturated with colors, and it's so busy, but in this very like rich and dark and almost creepy sort of way. And it's also the way everything is framed, sort of like in Rosemary's Baby, where you find yourself kind of going like this, like, is she what's she doing over there on the phone? It's the same thing with this. You're constantly trying to figure out what exactly is just out of the frame, and it makes the entire experience really unsettling, really unnerving. It's also, it's one of the other movies that almost made this list is called Hansel and Gretel. And I bring it up now because this Tale of Two Sisters has the feeling of a fairy tale, of a really morbid, super creepy, bloody, what's going on under the table sort of a fairy tale.
And a bit of a ghost story.
It is. Well, and it's one of the, so a lot of Japanese horror is very circular and has... Yeah,
Korean
ghost elements. No, Japanese. Yeah. So this is another one where I think the Japanese and Korean horror sometimes comes together.
Gotcha.
So the same director also did I Saw the Devil, which doesn't really bear any similarity to other cultural sort of tendencies in the genre, but this one sort of does. It kind of does, in that. But the supernatural element of it blends really well with the logical element of it. So you're never entirely certain what's happening. And even once you sort of think you figured it out, there's so many more layers to just the mysterious business afoot that you don't ever, until the very end, have figured out all of the things that are going on. The performances are also outstanding, just outstanding.
Yeah, and apparently this one is based on a Korean folk tale, which I guess if the folk tales have, a moral or a meaning, I guess you could pinpoint something about actions have consequences, things like that for this movie if you want to make it that simple. But there is that eerie ghost story vibe going in here, which, like you said, it always makes you think that something is just out of reach, something you're just missing, but it's creepy and it's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are a couple of times where he really takes advantage of that, of the fact that he's sort of got you looking everywhere. There are a couple of times where you just go, oh, there it is.
But what was that? How'd you go?
But most of the time, you just still are sort of, craning to see what's just, what's in the shadow and what's going on. And this is another one that suffered from a god-awful American remake, just heinous.
Yeah, that was the one with Elizabeth Banks, The Uninvited, it was called. That was from 2009. Not very good.
Terrible.
Doesn't even compare to the look of it.
Oh, my... No, exactly.
Yeah,
no,
and the framing. It's just kind of a schlock, kind of a ghost story thing.
Yeah, it's terrible.
With and the scares are not nearly as well developed.
No,
as this
and
one.
It's like it's just one of those PG-13 teenage girl star. Let's get a bunch of kids in the movie theater,
right? And
suck. Let's just do that.
Yeah, right. So that's a goal. Let's get together and suck.
Let's greenlight that.
Yeah, well, they got it done. But not this one. This is number one on our list, and that is Tale of Two Sisters from 2003, our favorite Korean horror. We're going to see it here in just a few minutes, which is awesome.
We want to let you know, though, next month we're super excited. So next month we get our first double feature. We are going to show Kill List, a 35mm print of Kill List, Ben Wheatley's outstanding, awesome, super creepy zealotry.
It always
film.
Gives you a new appreciation for the phrase, thank you.
And then we're going to follow that up with not a horror movie, but Ben Wheatley's new High Rise. So we are super excited about that.
Yeah, starring Tom Hiddleston.
The 11th, Wednesday, obviously, on the 11th of May.
Yeah, so that'll be the next Fright Club Live. And for those of you that wandered in and don't know, you can catch this once we get this edited down. This podcast pops up once a week on our website, which is madwolf.com.
2 Ds.
MADDWOLF. And we always love to talk with you guys on Twitter. Let us know if this countdown, did we miss something? Should Old Boy been number one? Is Old Boy, you want to argue with her? Old Boy is not a horror movie? Have at it. I'll go in the other room. But we're at Mad Wolf on Twitter, and it's always a lot of fun. So
real quick poll, just whoever's louder, right? Kids horror or creature features? All right. Okay. Creature features it is.
I like it. So, all right. We appreciate that. And until next week.
I'm Hope Madden.
And I'm George Wolf. And this is the Fright Club Podcast.
Stay frightful, my friends.
Enjoy the movie. We know you will. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Oppan Gangnam Style.